This is the Impressions Xchange podcast.
Impressions Xchange podcast,
where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Welcome to another episode of the Impressions Xchange podcast. This is the first episode in 2026. So we're going to start off the year strong with a guest from the promotional products space. Theresa Hegel, who is the executive editor of Special Projects and Sustainability and the editor of Promo for the Planet at the Advertising Specialty Institute, is joining me today. Late last year, Theresa penned an article, 5 Trends to Keep an Eye On in 2026. We wanted to follow up on her predictions and get the inside scoop on what print service providers should understand about the promo industry. We chat about AI, the rise of print on demand, sustainability, M&A, and why USA-made products will take on a greater significance this year. We also chat about some insights from the recent ASI event in Orlando. Stay tuned for our conversation. Theresa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a good way to start the new year. Really excited. There was actually an article that you wrote last year that our audience on Printing Impressions loved. So I wanted to bring you on start of the year to kind of talk through it. You had outlined some trends to keep an eye on for the new year.
Yes.
So in the promo space, tell me, just generally some of the things that you're seeing.
So some of the things that I think are really important for promo in 2025 and I think will remain so in 2026 is definitely AI, which I'm sure is big for the print world as well.
Very much so, yep.
Yeah, can't really escape it. But one of the things that I think is going to be different this year compared to 2025 is that we're going to get a little bit more sophisticated in how we're using AI. It's going to go from like that experimentation phase where everyone's sort of just trying out different tools and how can we use this to make our business better. Now you're going to see more formal policies and we're going to start to get more into that. I think they call it agentic AI, where it's kind of AI talking to each other and doing the tasks sort of in the background. So it's just like, it's kind of inescapable. And if you haven't really figured it out yet, you really need to start because everybody else is kind of on this bandwagon. But at the same time, and I did mention this in the article, it's not a replacement for humans. You really still have to have like the human element in there. This is supposed to be a tool to help you, but because it's so pervasive, you need to have policies, you need to have things in place to kind of have it formalized and make sure that you're not plagiarizing things or the AI isn't hallucinating or whatever the case may be. So I think we're going to get more sophisticated, more people know about AI. We just need to do it in a more I keep saying the same thing, but sophisticated way. So
right.
One of the big things, I think, for sure. Something else that is really kind of was a big theme, at least in my coverage last year, was print on demand. And I think that's going to continue this year as well. Some research that we had done, I guess this was last year, 54% of distributors in the promo space are providing print on demand services. And that's, I think 78% of them, that's kind of an add-on to other things that they do. But it's growing. And there is the e-commerce part of it is was kind of like really huge because the traditional way of selling promo is kind of like those bulk buying methods. And things are like warehoused in inventory, but most, promo buyers don't want to have to take on that inventory risk. So if you're doing a more print on demand model on an e-commerce platform, then you're only kind of buying what you need as you need it as like people are ordering. So I think that's going to continue to be really big, especially like with automation and different technology kind of backing it up.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point for, some of like the commercial printers who are listening who might want to break into promo. That's an important probably area to understand and to look into.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, I think there's some, obviously print on demand is not really new. And I think in maybe printing spaces, this is kind of been around for a much longer time. But in some ways, promo can be, I don't want to say backwards, but it can be a little more traditional. And sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to, latch on to these new ways of doing things. So if people in the print world already have kind of this automation technology and they're kind of spooled up with it, like there would be a good opportunity to partner with people in promo and help them kind of get up to speed.
Right.
Another big thing, especially for me, so I write about sustainability a lot. We have our Promo for the Planet site on ASI Central. And of course, I have the podcast I do with Cassie from Printing United, and we're both very passionate about, bringing sustainability to the industry. We had a whole summit called the Why It Matters Live Sustainable Merch Summit last year. We're going to be doing it again this year. But yeah, I mean, again, the same with AI being kind of like experimentation. Last year, I think, 2025 was in many ways a year of raising awareness for sustainability. Now this year, hopefully it'll be more of like taking actions, measuring what you're doing, tracing kind of like the supply chain and making things, better, more sustainable, more socially aware, things like that. So hopefully, we always talk about this being, not a trend, being a movement. And you kind of take those steps. And I think people are catching on to that and actually taking the steps they need to. So there were two other big things that I mentioned was more mergers and acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're recording this in January. Sometimes I think of that as merger and acquisition season because I think people save it up to the new year. So we're already seeing some smaller ones in promo. I don't know if we'll have any big blockbuster ones like the SNS Activewear Alpha Broder merger that was in 2024 or the Gildan acquisition of Hanes brands last year. There have been some like really big ones. I'm not sure what's going to be kind of coming as the year goes on, but I do think that it's a trend that just continues to happen.
Yeah. And it's happening. I mean, it's happening in the commercial space too, and packaging, there's a lot of M&A activity. So yeah, not surprising that it's also happening kind of in that promo space, but definitely an interesting trend to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've always said there's a lot of fragmentation in the promo industry. So it makes sense that that means there's opportunity to consolidate and, kind of figure out what your competitors have that, maybe you want and kind of go after that. So sometimes it's partnerships too. There are, there's the acquisitions, but then there's sometimes these strategic partnerships that are happening. So there's different ways it can happen, but there's definitely a lot of consolidation going on. And I think that will continue.
Printing United Alliance is the leading member-based printing and graphic arts association in North America with over 70 years of history and more than 20,000 members worldwide. We're here to support printing professionals like you with the tools, resources, and information you need to grow your business, sharpen your skills, and expand your network. Whether you're a printer, supplier, student, or educator, we've built our community to serve everyone who's passionate about the future of print. An Alliance membership is a smart, cost-effective way to stay current on the latest trends, connect with industry leaders, and give your business the competitive edge it deserves. Head over to printing.org/membership to learn more about the memberships we offer. Let's move the printing industry forward together.
And then the other big thing is the I don't think I can say it, semi-quincentennial this year, right? The America's 250th anniversary is coming up. And I think that's really, there's the 25th year since the September 11th attacks, I guess is this year as well. There's the United States is going to host the FIFA World Cup. There's all kinds of stuff happening in this year and kind of next year that really is going to make this a huge moment for made in the USA goods. And that trend it had already started last year a little bit because of tariffs. There was a lot more exploration of how can we, bring things back to the US? Are there suppliers that are already, doing made in the USA products? And I think that with these kind of patriotic or US focused events that are happening, that's definitely going to add more interest in made in the US stuff. I mean, I don't think that it's going to kind of shift the industry, the promo industry, all the way to US production, of course, because the supply chains are very complicated. A lot of it happens in China, and it costs millions and millions of dollars to kind of ramp up new manufacturing. But I think for the people that are already doing made in the US products, or are able to kind of pivot and expand, I think it's going to be a very good opportunity for them this year and possibly into 2027 as well.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. And I know I'm in the Philly area. I think you're in the Philly area too, right?
Yeah,
So there is that big focus on the 250th.
Yeah.
So
I actually was just at the Liberty Bell like last month. So
okay. Yeah. So getting ready for that event. Yeah, so that's definitely something I hadn't thought about, and when I saw that you wrote that, that's a great point. So one of the other things is that ASI just had an event recently, and did you hear anything from some of the attendees there? Are there things that they're watching, or concerned about or excited about for the upcoming year?
Yeah. So we actually kick off the year every year with our ASI Orlando show. I think it's kind of the first industry event of the year. And one of the things we typically do, the first day is the education day, as with many of these shows. So we have lots of classes, but at the end of the day, we have an education wrap-up session. And it's pretty cool because obviously, from Printing United, like there's so many classes that are happening concurrently, so you cannot go to them all. But the cool thing we do is all the speakers come to this like end of the day event and give kind of like a little, 5-minute spiel about what they talked about. So even if you can't attend everything, you kind of get the gist of every class. You get the benefit of everything that happened. But the other thing we do is we'll do these like flash polls of the audience. So we asked them a couple of different questions. One thing was about whether they are projecting sales growth for 2026. Obviously, it's a little early to know whether this is going to happen, but we're kind of an optimistic bunch. So 93% of people in the audience were self-projecting, sales growth for 2026. So right. It's a good way to go into the new year. Another question we asked was about print on demand, which I had already talked about. We had our research team had asked people already, and I think it was like 54% at that time. Well, the flash poll in the audience says that 58% of the people in attendance are already offering print on demand, with 31% planning to offer it sometime this year.
Wow. Okay.
So it's definitely a trend that is growing. And then the other thing was about AI we asked. So there's different ways to ask all these questions, but this was basically about whether people thought that AI was going to have a positive impact on their business, a negative impact, or no impact. And actually 88% of the people polled think that AI is going to have a positive impact on their business. So again, that's pretty exciting numbers. So, and I know that we also had several classes focused on AI, and from what I understand, they were very, very well attended, kind of packed. So people really want to know more about the technology and how they can use it in their business. The other thing that we kind of have revealed recently, so in 2024, distributor sales for the year were $26.6 billion. That number has gone up. 2025, it was $27.7 billion.
Wow. Okay.
So it's up 1.1 billion, if I can do that very simple math. So, some of that I think is related to people having to raise prices because of tariffs. But regardless, it's still, a good trend to have another kind of record year for promo. So I think that's a good way to start 2026, knowing that, yes, we had some rough, I think, quarters last year, but overall, we were up another $1 billion.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I do have some follow-up questions there. I think it's, just a comment here. I think it's, interesting that, you mentioned some of the, obviously tariffs having an impact, but the response from the ASI event attendees saying they expect the overwhelming response of like, yes, we expect growth in 2026. That's exciting. And I think a good indicator of, some of the things that we can expect for the year. What do you think now a question about the AI aspect. Something that I've noticed just from over the past, 2 years or so, talking with people at events, or, we've had AI centric sessions at events. There was definitely some hesitation from some of the print service providers that I spoke with, say a year or two ago. And I do feel like that's changing. People are more accepting of and interested in learning more about AI. Is that something you're seeing, that there's kind of been the shift of like hesitation to more excitement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even we do these flash polls, I think, at every event, and I think we've asked some form of question on AI at every event for the last couple of years. And I don't have the exact numbers like off the top of my head, but I do think there was a lot more hesitation or skepticism about how AI could really be useful. And I think people just didn't necessarily understand it. But the other thing too is that I think a lot of these tools have gotten much better very, very quickly. Because if you remember, like it was only a few years ago that, they was it like Dolly, the one that does images,
The
like
artwork, yeah.
yeah, the artwork one, it was terrible. Like
Yeah.
the stuff you would ask it to do was just like total garbage. But it's gotten a lot better. I mean, it's still there. I still think that poorly done AI art is all around, and you can still see it, and if you know what to look for, it's pretty obvious. But I think a lot more people are figuring out how to kind of incorporate it into their daily workflow and not just like let it take over. And I mean, also things like Adobe, I think, they have AI. Every program has its own AI tools built in. So I think that's another thing that is making it easier for people to accept. If it's already in the program you're using and it's just sort of like augmenting what you're doing, that's not as scary as having to kind of find a whole new program and figure out how to use it. So I think it's part of it is just like familiarity, and part of it is that the tools are getting better. And also I think just the education that, Printing United has done and NASI has done, we're helping people understand how they can use it in their business. So if we didn't have all of these sessions and webinars and classes, I think it would be difficult for people to figure, realize how what is this? How am I going to use it? Is it really going to help me? So I think, there's a number of different reasons that it's getting more accepted and more used. But I think a lot of it is just the familiarity and the improvement of the tools out there.
So one of my final questions here, we've talked through some of the trends, some of the things that you've seen over the past year, and some of the things you're watching, this year. What do you think will be, kind of looking into your crystal ball, um, to the end of the year? What do you think are going to be some of the things that you're going to look at and have those be indicators of success in the promo industry or growth in the promo industry?
I always love these crystal ball questions because then people can go back and tell me how wrong I was by the end of the year. But I think, I really don't think there's going to be anything that's like sort of like out of left field. I think that these trends that we've already been talking about are just going to continue. I think the success will come in people. I guess like one of the things with like the promotional products industry is that it does still have a bit of a perception problem where people kind of look at it as trinkets and trash or throwaway items. But I think we've been doing a better job of showing how it's all just kind of incorporated into the whole marketing mix. So I think that an indicator of success would just be to see more of these kind of very creative promotional campaigns that big brands are doing, and people love. Like we just see so many things. Like for instance, like Dunkin' Donuts had these little like donut bags. I don't know if you saw them, which I did get one and it was very cute. But just like little things like that, where it's like people don't always connect that is a promo. That's a promo
Right.
product. They think of the things that you get at a trade show and like, oh, that have no connection with their brand or what they want. But like these really cool projects that brands do, that Dunkin' Donuts does or Starbucks or whatever. That's all part of the promo industry. So I think just kind of if we can end the year with more people understanding that promo is, it's not just products, it's marketing, it's part of the whole messaging strategy. I think that's a win. I think just the more we can get into like the print on demand and the automation of it, so that you're doing these like one piece orders, but people are still making money from it. So I think it's just an embracing of technology, and just sort of everybody elevating that message of what promo is, and the sustainability of it too, of course.
Perfect. So final question here. I'd love to talk about the live events that are coming up. So you just had ASI Orlando. Do you have 2 more of those events this year?
So ASI Fort Worth is March 9th through 11th. And then in the summertime in July, we have ASI Chicago.
Okay.
And then we have other like littler events like the Facilitate and Powerhouse meetings, and there's an ASI Power Summit in October. But the 3 major trade shows would be Orlando, Fort Worth, and then Chicago.
And you also mentioned the Why It Matters Live. When is that?
Yes, that will be in April. We haven't nailed down the exact dates, but that is so it's called Why It Matters Live, but it is virtual, which is a little silly, but it'll probably be sometime in April, coinciding with Earth Month. That's with Branded Merch Network, Apparelist, ASI, and 2 regular guys.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I will include information in the description for those who are listening who are interested. Theresa, thank you so much for joining me and talking through some trends for 2026.
Thank you.
I want to give my thanks to Theresa for joining me on today's episode. I will include a link to the article in the description, as well as a link to the events mentioned in today's episode. I also want to thank all of you, our listeners. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Impressions Exchange podcast.